ours. They'll receive any support and assistance they need. And of course, we're very anxious to be able to reunite them with their loved ones.
2 American hostages released by Hamas after being held for nearly 2 weeks. The news, a huge relief for one man here on the West Coast as he learns his loved ones are now heading home. The hostages released today are the sister and stepmother of a man who lives in Denver. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. Ben Renan has not said when he will be reunited with his sister, Natalie Renan, and stepmother, Judith Renan. This image released today shows the American women walking alongside Israeli military members after their release. The Denver man says the last time he communicated with his sister was by text message before she was taken hostage by Hamas. She told him she was going to barricade herself inside a house because she heard bombing and gunfire. Officials in Qatar helped to negotiate their release. Today, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Hamas must release all of the hostages.
We welcome their release. We share in the relief that their families, friends, and loved ones are feeling. But there are still 10 additional Americans who remain unaccounted for in this conflict. We know that some of them are being held hostage by Hamas, along with an estimated 200 other hostages held in Gaza. They include men, women, young boys, young girls, elderly people from many nations. Every single one of them should be released.
The newly released Americans were on a trip to southern Israel when they were taken hostage. They are now in the care of Red Cross workers. We're learning more tonight about California Governor Gavin Newsom's visit to Israel. He posted photos on X of his meeting with a woman from California who was wounded during a missile and grenade attack. The governor wrote she covered herself among dead people to survive before she was rescued and then transported to the hospital. Newsom says California is sending medical supplies to that region, including to Gaza. After the one-day trip, Governor Newsom is set to continue on with his planned visit to China. President Biden met with European Union officials today who are echoing his calls for a substantial increase in funding for Israel and Ukraine. The president requested an ambitious aid package from Congress with more than $61 billion for Ukraine, more than $14 billion for Israel, and about $9 billion for humanitarian aid, which could help civilians in Gaza. The package also includes funding for Taiwan and the U.S.-Mexico border.
We stood together to support the brave people of Ukraine in the face of Putin's aggression, and we stood together to tackle the economic challenges and establish standards to guide our relationship with China. And we're standing together now to support Israel in the wake of Hamas's appalling terrorist attack.
The White House, though, is facing a serious challenge getting this funding through Congress, which is currently without a House Speaker. A husband and wife from the Palm Springs area who were in Israel when this war started say they feel lucky and sad to be back home tonight. News Channel 3's Peter Dowd spoke to them at their home in Indio.
There's just so many horror stories, and they all hit very close to home.
Carmela Deary and her husband Yossi say they are grateful to be alive and back home in Indio after being trapped in a war zone.
We're still traumatized.
Yeah.
Nightmares at night.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Seeing our friends being buried on live Facebook.
The couple and their 3 young children were visiting family in an Israeli town just a few miles from the Gaza Strip when on the morning of October 7th, they suddenly heard sirens, gunshots, and rockets.
It was raining rockets. It became literally like an action horror film.
The family took this cell phone video as they hid in a basement for several hours, terrified and confused. When they finally emerged, they discovered the carnage that Hamas militants had unleashed on their town, including this police station that had been decimated.
Places where we would walk the day before with our children outside, just going to the bakery or going to the grocery, people were dead, like lying dead on the streets.
Adding to their heartache, many of their friends and relatives had been murdered, including Yossi's cousin, who they had just had dinner with the night before the attack.
He got shot in the head, then they burned his body. They took us like a week to ID him because he was completely burned.
And this family they know had been kidnapped, including children who were 4 and 6 months old.
Nobody knows where they are. Are they fed? I mean, I have a 10-month-old baby. How do you take care of a 6-month-old baby in Gaza?
For days, the Adiris desperately tried to escape Israel, but nearly all flights were fully booked or canceled. They say they finally managed to get on a last-minute flight to Greece, ultimately allowing them to return to the U.S.
How lucky do you feel to have gotten out?
That's a very tricky question.
Lucky and sad at the same time, because we left a lot of family over there and friends.
There's a lot of survival guilt.
As the family struggles to process their emotions, they're fearful about what will happen next in Israel. Meanwhile, they want to share this message.
We don't want kids to get killed, not in Gaza, not in Israel.
Peter Dowd, News Channel 3.
And to stay on top of how communities across the West are reacting to the war between Israel and Hamas, head to our website. It's westcoastwrap.com.
The Lloyd Center exit, the Convention Center exit, every motherfucking exit. You bum.
A driver's own dash camera capturing that stunning video of his erratic behavior behind the wheel, coming dangerously close to a crowd of people who had gathered for a parade in Portland. That man's actions behind the wheel now have him facing a 38-count indictment. Fox 12's Will Metzold shows us how the driver's dash camera video is being used as evidence against him.
You can see just how close a pickup truck comes to hitting people, including children, on the Grand Floral Parade route in June. The suspect got onto the route by plowing over cones, driving past ODOT trucks, and driving on a hillside on the exit to Northeast Weidler Street. All of this video comes from the suspect's own dash camera, which begins recording at about 9:30 that morning. And you can hear him become more agitated when he notices exits are blocked off.
The Lloyd Center exit, the Convention Center exit, every motherfucking exit. You bum.
Police later arrested 42-year-old Sidney Meekum of Portland when he eventually stopped near Northeast Clackamas Street and Northeast 24th Avenue. A grand jury later indicted Meekum on 38 counts related to the case. His dashcam video was released after being used as evidence to keep him in jail without bail. The pickup drove on the parade route lined with people just minutes before it officially began. Fox 12 viewer Arif Ali also sent in this video of that moment as he prepared to watch.
I hear this screeching behind us, and I was like, whoa, what's that? And I look around, I see this truck going through, passing the ODOT rescue trucks.
Ali says he was able to get a look at Meekum as he was driving by. He could tell there wasn't much that would slow him down.
He was going so fast, and he almost hit a couple of families. I saw the anger in his eyes, that he was just frustrated. I don't know at what.
Just terrifying video. That was Fox 12's Will Metzold reporting for us tonight. The suspect in this case was also cited for driving with a suspended license, failure to obey a police officer, and driving without insurance. Also, his pickup truck was towed. Students at a Seattle high school staged a walkout today, expressing their frustration and anger with school administrators over how they're dealing with a group of football players who sent threatening text messages about fellow students. Those players were suspended in connection with the messages that talked about raping female students. Some girls at the school say those involved should have received a harsher punishment.
I feel unsafe now. I feel very unsafe at this school, thinking that these men are thinking about women in this way, and it just made me feel very disgusted, and my heart goes out to the girls that they were talking about.
School officials say they are developing a plan to prevent further sexual harassment and offering support to the students who were named in those text messages. Coming up tonight on West Coast Wrap, trouble expected for Spirit Airlines passengers this weekend. What's forcing the airline to alter some customers' travel plans? Plus, just released surveillance video shows a huge group looting a convenience store near Sacramento. What authorities are saying about the people captured on camera here.
And in weather, while parts of the West Coast dealing with record heat yesterday, the cool down kicked in today, and we could be tracking some more shower coverage into the weekend. We'll have the update coming up.
People planning to fly with Spirit Airlines this weekend are being warned to prepare for the possibility of travel disruptions. The airline canceled 100 flights today because it needs to have some of its planes inspected. It expects the inspections will disrupt travel for several days. The FAA is aware of Spirit's decision to pull planes from service. It describes those inspections as being performed as mandatory maintenance. Spirit suggests customers check their flight status before they head out to the airport. Tonight, we're seeing surveillance video from a Northern California convenience store that shows a large group of people looting that business. The Sacramento County Sheriff's Office says as many as 50 people broke into the 7-Eleven store in Rio Linda and ransacked the place. Authorities say this happened back on October 8th following a late-night sideshow nearby. The Sheriff's Office says the thieves took off with food, electronics, and other merchandise. They're hoping the release of this surveillance video will lead to tips and ultimately arrests.
These guys are probably going to get tickets at most. Maybe a couple might go to jail for a little while for breaking windows because, again, these are now non-violent crimes. Ask the two guys inside while this is all going on how non-violent it felt for them.
The two clerks who were working at the store at the time were not hurt. The store's owner says the damage left behind was immense. Store owners across the West Coast are bracing for a surge in retail theft over the next few months as we head into the holidays. U.S. Chamber of Commerce researchers surveyed retail store operators and found 53% of small retailers said their businesses experience more shoplifting during the holiday shopping season. Many are coordinating with law enforcement to try to crack down on thieves. In Bellevue, Washington, a new initiative is putting an emphasis on police presence inside and outside stores.
We have undercover officers that will be working with the retailers, their managers, their loss prevention on certain days, high peak hours that the theft occurs to combat that retail theft.
According to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, 36% of small businesses have enhanced security measures over the past year to try to combat theft. The president of SAG-AFTRA has taken to social media to explain why the union can't move forward with a plan that was floated by some Hollywood A-listers as a potential option to end the actors' strike.
That does not impact the contract that we're striking over whatsoever. We are a federally regulated labor union, and the only contributions that can go into our pension and health funds must be from the employer. So what we are fighting for in terms of...
Fran Drescher thanked George Clooney and other big stars in her message posted to Instagram. That group of celebrities approached SAG-AFTRA leaders earlier this week, saying they were willing to pay more than $150 million into the union over the next 3 years. The actors believe that money could help the union accomplish goals tied to health benefits. They also worked out a formula meant to help the union satisfy streaming residual goals. SAG-AFTRA leaders say their contract negotiations must be with the Hollywood studios. The studios walked away from bargaining last week, saying that the two sides are just too far apart. Actors have been on strike ever since July. Portland's public school teachers have voted to authorize a strike. That authorization passed with 99% approval, and the required 10-day intent to strike notice has been sent now to the district. If this strike does happen, all schools will close their doors and there will be no online alternatives for students. The district would provide some services during a potential strike, like meals and mental health services. Negotiations are still ongoing, but Portland teachers could walk off the job as soon as November 1st. And in San Francisco, public school teachers appear to have avoided a strike as they have reached a tentative deal with the district. As part of this 2-year agreement, educators will get a permanent raise of $9,000 the first year of the salary schedule and a 5% increase during their second year. Substitute teachers and classified educators will also receive a pay increase.
I think that will make a huge difference, especially for the newer teachers and the people that aren't on the salary schedule, like all the paraprofessionals, as well as, we have the security team and the lunch staff. I think that, every bit counts for the people that keep the schools running.
This tentative deal still needs to be voted on in order to be finalized. The teachers union says they will email teachers a voting timeline coming up on Monday. And in Las Vegas, the Culinary Union says thousands of its members plan to picket once again next Wednesday along the Strip. The union is negotiating a 5-year contract for its workers, demanding better wages, more benefits, and job protections. Back in September, an overwhelming majority of members authorized a strike. And last week, members of the union formed a picket line in front of 8 different MGM resorts.
Well, the weather pattern changing a bit over the West Coast as we head into the weekend. You can see what we have been dealing with as we check out the upper level wind pattern. This big area of high pressure keeping things dry for the most part, and of course hot in some portions of the West Coast, especially California. Yesterday out towards San Francisco and down towards Southern California. This was the scene today up in Seattle, where you can see actually a fairly nice day, partly cloudy skies, and temperatures only in the 60s, right around 64 degrees. As we also check out San Francisco, of course, they had the heat advisory yesterday, not the case for today. Temperatures yesterday, 87 degrees in downtown San Francisco. Today, only in the mid-60s. And out toward Phoenix, they still have the hot temperatures. You can see the hazy skies, temperatures 104 degrees, but it looks like temperatures will be trending down, even in Phoenix, as we head into the weekend. So here's the overall the overall weather picture. As you check out the radar here, there's not a lot of radar coverage out there, so no major storms to track. And current numbers ranging right now from 54 in Seattle to the 90s in Phoenix and in Palm Springs, 70s in Southern California, and San Francisco checking in 63. Here's the overall weather breakdown. There's a front out here in the Pacific, and this will send in some rain chances up in Seattle, up in the Pacific Northwest this weekend. Definitely cooling things off, at least for Southern California and Central California, temperatures in the 70s. Sunshine out toward Denver, and looks like lots of 90s out toward the deserts, the temperatures trending down into the weekend. That's kind of the overall weather headline. And we are tracking some more clouds. So this is Saturday, 5 p.m. You can see this green showing up offshore, and we do begin to bring in some rain up in the Pacific Northwest on Sunday. Even some rain up toward Northern California for Eureka, and even some scattered showers closer to San Francisco. It looks like just some cooler conditions for Southern California for that time frame. So here's the breakdown. Lots of clouds for Seattle, and we'll be talking about some rain chances into the weekend. Looks like that cooling will continue for San Francisco. Francisco, Southern California, Los Angeles in the 70s. No more triple digits for Phoenix, but close to 100 degrees for you Saturday. Looks like a nice quiet weather pattern for Denver. Temperatures in the 70s. No major snowstorms or blizzards to talk about just yet. But of course, Alex, that will be changing probably over the coming weeks as we see the weather pattern changes as we head toward late October into November.
Yeah, a lot of changes coming our way. Mark, thank you. Public health workers in the Phoenix area expect 2023 will set a new record for heat-related deaths. Maricopa County officials have confirmed 425 heat-related deaths so far this year. That ties the record that was set in 2022. Public health workers expect this year's total will surpass that mark with nearly 200 additional deaths that are still under investigation. Officials say this is proof more needs to be done to help people get out of that extreme heat. A potential threat from space junk coming up tonight on West Coast Wrap, why there is growing concern about debris that could be falling to Earth. Plus, we haven't even celebrated Halloween yet, and a giant Christmas tree is already going up in Southern California. We'll tell you where it's already feeling like the holidays. A new warning is out about the potential for dangerous space debris falling to Earth, and SpaceX's Starlink satellites are right in the middle of this discussion. Reporter Lauren Donovan shows us how SpaceX is defending itself.
Junk has fallen from the sky a lot.
Coming down and burning up in the atmosphere.
It has entered Earth's atmosphere, but scientists have no idea where it will crash.
What in the world?
Creedence Clearwater wrote a song about it in the early 70s. Who's responsible when something falls from the sky?
This month, the FAA sent Senator Patty Murray a letter warning her about the risk from re-entering space debris. It's calculated that by the year 2035, an estimated 28,000 hazardous fragments will plummet back here to Earth. And that debris has the potential to kill or injure someone every couple of years.
The government is watching, and they did single out Starlink.
SpaceX's constellation of satellites, Starlink, powers the navigation system in your car, connects remote communities to the internet. But this convenience could come at a cost.
It's sort of a natural consequence.
Steve Tapia spent years as legal counsel for Microsoft and DirecTV. Now he focuses on internet law as a Seattle University professor.
Almost every technology creates junk. So it's not just the satellites and whether or not they may, you might want to wear a hard hat going forward.
The FAA is pushing for better design that reduces the amount of orbital debris.
It's just there's more of it up there, so the odds are that more of it's going to fall. They're in a much lower orbit. They're a lot smaller, and so there's a lot less money spent in them. I mean, Elon Musk is very, very famous for trying to cut costs in all of his companies, and it's no surprise they've done that with the satellites as well.
And liftoff of Starlink 2-6. Go.
SpaceX defends its network of satellites in this letter, arguing the FAA's findings fall short. It's, quote, an inept and outdated NASA study, a distorted analysis that makes preposterous, unjustified, and inaccurate claims.
It is fair to say that Starlink gets a lot of attention, partly because of the lion's share that it actually holds.
Space law is Sadia Pekkanen's specialty.
So we've had satellites colliding in space in 2009. We've had countries actually taking out their own satellites and then increasing the size of orbital debris, and orbital debris is lethal.
The University of Washington professor doesn't believe Starlink should shoulder all the blame.
Starlink is one of many other companies, and the problem is not just about one company.
But she thinks this FAA notice sets the tone for those manufacturing space technology right here in our own backyard.
This is the satellite capital of the world in so many ways. About 40% of the satellites that are up there are actually produced here in the greater Seattle area.
For example, Starlink builds them at their Redmond Ridge warehouse.
They do have a responsibility and a duty in a terrain that's important for all of humanity.
Now let's say some of that space junk was to come on down to Earth, damage property, or worst case, kill someone. I'm told here in the United States, it would be handled like a car accident. But not all countries have regulations for how to handle cases like this. And that is where things get gray. Reporting in the newsroom, Lauren Donovan, Fox 13 News.
Finally tonight, it's not even Halloween yet, but Santa is already making an appearance in Southern California.
A wonderful job of decorating for the seasons. That's one of the reasons I came down from the North Pole to be here for the arrival of this tree, and I think this year more than ever.
Santa showed up for this morning's arrival of a massive Christmas tree at an outlet mall in Commerce near Los Angeles. That tree is 115 feet tall, brought in from Mount Shasta in Northern California. It now will be decorated ahead of a tree lighting ceremony that's happening on November 11th. The holidays are here, whether you like it or not. Thank you for joining us for West Coast Wrap tonight. Have a great evening.